Okay. Well, how's your week been?
Yeah, I put together a little bit of an agenda here if you want to check that out.
Great.
Just put it in the chat. So, yeah, Saturday we held our Empathy Summit, and
Oh, that's great. How'd that go?
it was really good. It just had great energy, interesting presentations, uh, a sense of community. It was only about 35 people attended, but, we got, um, yeah, I got 8 more presentations to add. And there's a link there to the empathy presentations. Maybe I just show you that. I'm pretty proud of it. So let me show you. I'll do a screen share
So the
of it.
empathy circle presentation. Okay.
Yeah, well, I put together one page with all of them. So you can see that was the one I did on the drama triangle yesterday. And then this one was really good. I think I sent you Alyssa. We met her at the at UC Berkeley. She was a student there, and she kind of started learning about empathy circles. She really talks about her experience, with empathy circles, how she was sort of skeptical at first, and now it's like totally changed her life. So it's just a really great story. And Bill, talked about the training. This is another story, kind of a personal she talked about self-empathy, and also she just has gotten a lot. Tina and Lou holds empathy cafes at Petaluma Conversation, so it's a community, group in Marin County in Petaluma, and they don't call it empathy circles, but he does, holds them like every quarterly with the community.
Hmm.
And somebody, talking about empathy circles, organizing with using them for organizing. This one was extending empathy circles with NVC. That empathy circles are kind of like a first step. You go into NVC, you can go into internal family systems. Somebody's talked
Hmm.
about focusing, too, was one of the previously, and transformation. And so these are just all of them. So these are just, there is another one. Uh, Dynamic facilitation is another practice that she uses empathy circles as a gateway to this community, uh, sort of a community. They use this process for developing policy in different countries, but especially in Austria, where they bring the community together and then they talk about some community issue and then come up with some policies. And she uses empathy circles as a gateway practice, and conflict resolution. So there's a whole bunch. Just going just zipping down the page here. So just I'm trying to get all these together just to we can then send people the link to this so that they just know that there's a real body of work that supports the empathy circle practice.
Great.
So that felt good. Um, and tomorrow I'm meeting with Amber Bennett Weston to discuss the empathy uh, definition model. So I'm starting to, reach out to academics to, like I did with Greg, to ask, to just kind of see how they feel about it, and also confront the affective cognitive model. And she's a part of the Stony Gate Center for Empathic Healthcare. So there's a center in the UK that at this university, and they've been doing a lot of growing quite a bit. And they have a whole team there. They're using its focus on empathy within healthcare. So anyway, she's there, and yeah,
I
I've been
followed
working
them on LinkedIn.
with that.
I just said I decided to follow them on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, Stony Brook.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've I've done conferences with them before too. I think last year, Ruth, one of our group, she's in the UK. She actually went there and presented empathy circles, did empathy circles, but they haven't like really accepted it. I find that the academics are a bit stodgy about the empathy circle for some reason. So really trying to work and getting them to take it on, make it more a core part of their work. So anyway, um, and I've been working on the drama triangle. So I gathered a whole bunch of material. Um, and let's see, I'll just show you here on the
Yeah,
screen
I'd love to
share,
see it.
just to catch you up on. So, we have the cognitive here, on the side here is the cognitive empathy, the kind of the research I'm doing. And I'm going research. There's a lot of just kind of research about that, but then I'm going into criticisms and then the drama triangle. I've been going through, Gemini, Grok, etc. Kind of saying, uh, like with Gemini, I say, here's my question. What are some criticisms, empathy that fit within the drama triangle? For example, some criticisms of empathy say that empathy is used to make people turn people into victims. Use this output format, criticism title, summary of criticism, and advocate of this criticism. Quote the highlights of the criticism by the advocate. A quote. Let's see, this should be a quote that highlights, and then a link to the quote. So,
Oh, this is great.
and I
That's a
had,
really great prompt.
and I had, this is the page where I was putting that, and I had filled this page up, and somehow I got to redo it. It was this, I had a whole bunch of these, a whole page of these criticisms that I used in my presentation, but I don't know where it went. I went through the history. It was just like, just totally disappeared. So really bummed
Oh, that's
out.
terrible.
Yeah, gotta read.
So it's just within the drama triangle
Yeah,
page
I'm
there, or is it?
focusing on, yeah, it's just within the drama triangle I have a list of criticisms, and that's something I
Uh-huh.
think would be good is to have a team, like a rapid response team that you see an article come out with a criticism, we get right on it, we analyze
That's
it,
a
we
good
break it
idea.
down, and then we come up with a quick response to what
I
they're
love that
doing.
idea.
So if
Yeah,
you know if
that's
people, yeah.
that's a really great idea. And if we can get a team of people who have been working with you directly, because I think the people that are working with me, they're more of the academic types, and they're not
But we
really going
need
to
the
have
academic
the
types too.
the practical component. Hmm.
But the academics to counter, because this is a lot of like the stuff I'm doing here, like our team is not like really excited about it. They're not into the analytical so much. They're kind of more the practitioner. I kind of have a foot in both camps, the
Yeah,
practitioner
I
and
was actually right before we hopped on the call. I was like, Edwin is such an interesting individual because he is that person that wants to be in both worlds at the same time. And that's exactly where I want to be
mhm.
because I don't see the value of just doing one without the other. And so it's so refreshing to talk
It
to you.
is. I love
And
working with you. I can't tell you how meaningful it
it's so
is that
great.
we
Oh,
do
I'm so glad you
this.
feel that way.
Oh yeah, I'd love if we had like five more people, like you, we'd conquer the world.
I,
Yeah,
I know that's all it would take, right?
yeah, it's like five or ten, with this level of interest and dedication, and
No,
with
but
the yeah, with that
yeah, I agree
dual.
with that we have to have both sides of it because when you
Mhm,
get so deeply into one side of it, this was exactly what happened when I was working in West Africa. It was all practitioner focused and nobody was interested in the academic side that I brought to it. And so I really got frustrated with the lack of willingness to see the unintended consequences of intervening in people's lives just willy nilly, like, oh, well, we have the answers. They don't know anything. So we'll fix it. So I got really frustrated with that. And I saw it all over the place. And then now coming into the academic world where it's all like cerebral and very much theoretical and just thinking about it and not not doing anything practical with it. And I mean, there are going to be people on both sides who kind of are not going to fit
Hmm.
into that little box that I'm putting them into. But it does seem to be two camps. There's the practitioners and there's the academics. And I like the term pracademic because that I think that's where you and I fit, where we
Yeah.
want to have both of them.
And Rogers, that's what I love about his work. He was in that camp too. He did he developed the active listening, did it, I mean, every day for hours, practicing, and he was writing it up in an academic way too. So, but his work is grounded in practical, it's why I love reading his work because it's grounded in a practical experience. It makes it so much richer.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, well, where do you want to go from here today?
You have anything? How was your weekend? And
Um, Kids are going back to school. I'm at school right now. So I have a seventh grader and then a 10th grader. So it's like going into junior high and going into high school. And so they have like a pre-day where they go for half day. And then the rest of my kids go back tomorrow. So that's a bit crazy. I actually probably will need to leave around 11:40 my time, so 10:40 your time to go pick up my daughter from school. Um, but then come next week when we have this meeting time, I don't expect to have things interfering with our meeting times anymore. So that's going to be helpful. But as such, with kids getting back to school, that's just been 100% of our focus is just getting everybody ready. When you've got 5 kids and 3 schools and
I don't know how you do
17
it. I just,
teachers,
I just, I can
yeah,
hardly get to stuff, and I don't have any kids.
I know. Last night I was feeling very overwhelmed. Like I went to, I think it was 16 different classrooms last night. It was back to school night at all 3 schools, and my head was spinning just with what they need in this class, and it's slightly different in this class. And so like I haven't even had a chance to go through and compile everything that we still have yet by all of these classes. So we'll get things back under control this week. Oh, and to make things more interesting, I'm going to be babysitting my nephew for the next week and a half. So, and he's 2, so
Oh,
that
wow.
adds another component of complexity.
Well, yeah, I was
But
just
it'll be
thinking.
okay
Oh,
because sorry, he
oh,
goes to daycare, so I'll be able to
oh.
take him to daycare and then get work done and then go pick him up at the end of the day. What were you going to say?
Oh, I just think, yeah, sorry to interrupt. You're lagging a little bit, and your video's getting a
Yeah,
little blurry.
sorry.
You could turn the
Why don't I
video
turn off my
off.
video?
Yeah, it gives you more bandwidth. Um,
Okay.
I can actually turn mine off too. One
What
thing
were you
I
saying?
is just in terms of what to do. I'm sort of focusing on the drama triangle. I thought I could give it the presentation. I only gave a 9-minute presentation. It's really more like almost half an hour, maybe, or about the drama triangle. I don't know. I could kind of
Yeah.
share
And
with you
we've
what.
talked quite a bit about it. So
Mhm.
so I don't know if we need a full half hour for it, but I definitely I definitely think we're onto something with that because that like comparing them side by side, I think is really an effective way to see that we're talking about two very different things here. Like when we have the circle and the triangle, like you don't end up with victims in a circle.
Yeah, and it's a way of capturing a bunch. It's not all, but a lot of the criticisms, especially the current criticisms from the political right. They really make a big thing
Mm-hmm.
about victimization from the left, that the left is into
Yeah.
victimization. So a lot of their criticisms fit within the drama triangle, and I'm seeing that even some of Bloom's and Fritz Breithaupt's criticisms fit in it too. So maybe I could present it, what I've got, and then it'd be a framework for anything that you want to add. Like if you have come across any criticisms, you could see how to fit it in. So should we do that? Unless you got something else
Yeah,
you
that's
want to.
great. Let's see how well it works. No, I really like this idea. And let's just see how well it works with my bandwidth
Okay.
in terms of Wi-Fi. So that's my only concern right now.
Okay. Then okay, so this was the presentation that I gave. It's about empathy circles, a practical method exiting the drama triangle. Because of all the confusion and criticisms, I've been focusing. I just explained that I've been working on the definition projects, that I've got a presentation out about the definition. I've got another presentation on the inaccuracy of the cognitive affective concern, as empathic concern empathy model.
Mhm.
And the next is the holistic model, how it addresses the criticisms. And before that, I just refreshed people on, based what the definition is of holistic empathy. And that's another thing I'm trying to do, just as a aside, is try to reach out to academics and start, testing the holistic empathy model, just get their criticisms of it and, start actually confronting the affective cognitive empathy model, saying it's, so anyway, being able to say what the model is, it's basic empathy, what basic empathy is, self-empathy, imaginative and holistic, and then go into comparing that this is the comparison of the drama triangle and the empathy circle. And so what I found is that many of the criticisms of empathy say that empathy gets you into the drama triangle. They don't say it, explicitly, but they're saying that the underlying dynamics, you can map it onto the drama triangle. Their criticisms. And I use this is drama triangle is something I have sort of in the background of my mind. When I see human dynamics, I sometimes, I think of this model, and especially in conflict, I have this model in the back of my mind, and it just creates an understanding and a framework, and especially for dysfunctional, understanding dysfunctional dynamics. And from my experience, the empathy circle is the exit, which I've mentioned before. And I'm going to quickly introduce the model. The roles is the persecutor, and they're judging, they're criticizing, they're blaming, they're controlling, or dominating the victim. Could be authoritarian. They're sort of maybe using emotional violence or even physical violence to dominate the victim, and they feel a sense of righteousness, superiority, and the victim is someone who feels powerless, stuck or mistreated, oppressed. It's like, oh, poor me, I'm oppressed, I'm powerless. And sometimes they even seek out a rescuer, someone to solve their problems, but not always. Sometimes uh, they sort of deny their own power to change the circumstances, and sometimes even try to gain attention and sympathy for others by being in the victim role. The
Mhm.
rescuer tries to save or fix or save others and want to help those that they see as oppressed. I did actually was thinking about your story, Jody, in terms of how you're relating to family members with that your situation, if there was any fixing involved in that. So anyway, it's another topic to talk about.
Yeah.
And often, they're doing the rescuers often doing it without consent, like they're just wanting. And I see that a lot on the political left, like they want to save all these different groups, and these groups aren't even
Right.
asking for any help,
Right.
right? It's like, who asked you for your help? So
Mhm. And
anyway,
they get offended for that group, even though that group isn't offended by
right.
something.
Uh,
Like,
yeah.
you don't get to be offended for me because I get to choose that for myself.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics. So the scenario, I actually came up with a little scenario. So in this scenario, the father, Mark, he comes home, sees 30 dishes and turns to his son, who's supposed to be cleaning this up and says, his son Alex, this is exactly what I'm always talking about. You never clean up after yourself. It's like you expect someone else to be your personal maid. How many times do I have to tell you? So he's talking to his son, who's the victim, and so Alex slumps in the couch, feeling attacked and misunderstood, and says, "I was going to get to it. You're always nagging me about everything. Nothing I do ever is good enough for you. Why are you always on my case?" And so he feels, uh, unfairly, you feel helpless and criticized. And then the mother, Sarah, she steps in trying to smooth things over and protect Alex from Mark's criticism, say to Mark, honestly, please don't, oh, honey, please don't be so harsh. He's had a long day with school and homework. It's just a plate. I'll get to it. It's not a big deal. And then she turns to Alex and says, don't worry about it, sweetie. And then Alex, feeling emboldened by his mother's intervention, switches from victim to persecutor. He stands up and points his finger at his father. And you know what, Dad? The only reason you're mad about a stupid play is because you had a bad day at work, and you're now taking it out on me like you always do. You're the one who is always miserable and brings everyone else down. And so in that case, the father, has been criticized by his son. He turns into the victim, and
Mhm.
the son, who is the victim, turns into the persecutor. And then the mother tries to rescue the father, to say, Alex, that was completely out of line. You do not speak to your father that way. He does so much for us and he deserves your respect. Apologize to him right now. And actually, in that case, she's the rescuer, but probably in the son's eyes, she's becoming a persecutor. So anyway,
Yeah.
this dynamic just kind of goes on, on and on like this, and relationships go on for years with this basic dynamic. So the other two, this could be taken over into the empathy circle instead. And here we have four participants of the empathy circle, but it could be the three participants, in the drama triangle. And then, and the so in this case, the father comes home and he says what he did to his son. You never clean up. And the son could just reflect back what the father is saying, "Oh, I hear you think I never clean up," and it's like you think I'm just wanting to be your maid, and that you've told me a lot of times, that I should do this. And then the father would have space to then he would actually probably go into it. Says, "Yeah, I'm just feeling really frustrated. I've had a really hard day, and sorry to kind of lash out at you and say, well, I'm hearing you've had a hard day and you're just feeling sorry that you lashed out at me." And then the son would respond back, and I have a whole scenario here. I somehow kind of lost it, but there's a whole scenario of the dialogue between them where they actually just hear each other out. They give each other space to go deeper, before lashing out and lashing back, and they start understanding each other, and they start, taking with the drama triangle, people avoid responsibility, for their actions, whereas in the drama triangle, given enough time, people will start taking some responsibility for their role in the dynamic. So I don't know, that's I had some scripts here which I've lost about how the mother and father and son would dialogue in an empathy circle, but they're basically just listening to each other, going deeper. They're not taking on a person. There might even be a little bit of a persecutor and victim role within an empathy circle to begin with, but by being listening to the persecutor, you kind of slowly start transforming them into just a more into an empathic, you start seeing their common humanity, and it
Yeah.
slowly transforms the drama triangle. Maybe not right away, but over time it does. So I don't know, any thoughts on that so far?
I love it so much. I love it so much. I see this as so good to encapsulate what the criticisms are, and to I love that you've given a real world example of how it really quite often goes in like real people's homes, right? and then you transformed it through a real world example of how it could go. So I love that you're making it practical. I also love on the empathy circle diagram here that you have for each person that they're an empathic listener and a speaker, rather than fitting into one of those corners of the drama triangle. Like that, it's just so beautiful how it's like punching out those walls of the drama triangle and making it smoothed out, and like there's nothing pokey about it, right? I mean, that's a silly way of saying it, but like a drama triangle has sharp edges,
Ah,
but
uh-huh. Yeah.
a circle is encompassing everybody. And like I just think that the visual of that with those two right next to each other works so well, and especially the way you described exiting the triangle and transforming it into a circle is just beautiful.
Well, great. Thanks. Love that review. Yeah, and so if you want to, think of any criticisms, love to have you, put it into this format too. But
Okay.
and here's some examples of it. Hmm. So empathy. So this is Paul Bloom's. Empathy is biased. We are more prone to feel empathy for attractive people, uh, and for those who look like us or share our ethnic or national background. So that's his criticism. And here it's like, how does that fit within the drama triangle? So I would say that the persecutor in this case is the person who is excluding others would be the persecutor. So, and then the victim is the person who is not receiving empathy. And the rescuer in this case would actually be the author, because I think the author, Paul Bloom, is wanting to rescue the victim from
Mm-hmm.
the persecutor by his, arguments. And, and the way this could play out, if, is that the victim, is with someone, the persecutor is, maybe just listening to someone else, uh, uh, ignoring the victim. And, the victim's going to get angry. In fact, I heard that Jody Vance, he had mentioned something about progressives, how they exclude, conservatives, like if you're at a party or something and people sense and it's a liberal group that you're a conservative, that they'll kind of give you sort of a cold shoulder sometimes, or and I think there's something like that I've heard him just recently, that it's a real thing within conservatism, that's saying that liberals kind of give you the cold shoulder like that, and they're like totally pissed off, and then in that case they become the persecutor themselves by kind of lashing out at liberals who then become the victims, and uh, the whole dynamic continues, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way that you get out of that with the empathy circle is that everybody has a voice, nobody's excluded. So again, if whoever the person is in the circle is, there's nobody excluded, everybody's included, and that uh, get that changes, the takes people out of that persecutor victim role. So I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, I have definitely seen that to be the case. This class that I took that was political bias, my professor talked a lot about how, as a conservative at a liberal university, he had a lot of um, just kind of cold shouldering that happened
Mhm.
in his time there. And I've noticed it as a member of the LDS church, like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I went to a Christian conference last week, and I received a lot of that cold shoulder as well
Mm.
from people, because it's just this "you're different from us" kind of mentality, which was really interesting to me because I kept and this didn't I actually was able to break down barriers with people pretty effectively in most cases, but there were a couple of people that I was like, I can tell that you have made up your mind about who I am. Like you have decided for me who I am, and you haven't given me a chance to tell you who that is. And so that kind of put me into that drama triangle of feeling a bit victimized in that. And it wasn't a political thing, but it was a religious difference between people. But I mean, I see it all over the place. So that's one example. There's the political example with my professor. Just in any in group out group kind of dynamic that we see, we're always going to see that unless we change and include people in a circle. And you mentioned common humanity. And I think that that is such an important concept. Like, I think we really need to dig deeper into
Mm-hmm.
common humanity. That's one of the concept, like the core components of self compassion. When you realize that your experience is not that different from other people. But when you're not having self compassion, you fall into that trap of self victimization. Like, my life is so much harder than everybody else's, and like, why me kind of stuff. But
Mm.
if you practice self compassion, where you're just treating yourself like you would somebody else that you care about, then you get out of that trap of victimization. And what the research has shown is that you're able to get to a place where you see that common humanity more. And I would love to do some research on that and see how that self compassion comes into play with getting out of this drama triangle and entering the empathy circle.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
I think,
that's I'm the victim. Life is so hard,
yeah,
and the persecutor is life in that case.
right,
Everybody
exactly.
else. Well,
And
I would use
nobody
the
seems to
term
understand.
self-empathy instead of self-compassion in the sense that by definition, compassion deals with it seems like with pain and suffering, whereas empathy is with the full spectrum of feeling. And so I think anyway, there's a
Yeah, and
self-empathy
that's my
component.
pushback. That's my pushback too. Because that is there's a whole body of research on self-compassion.
Hmm.
But there's not a lot of research on self-empathy. So
Yeah.
that would be something that I would want to dig deeper into as well, is like, okay, we're talking about showing love for ourselves and like helping, like acts of compassion kind of thing, like take care of yourself. But the precursor to that, in my mind, needs to be understanding yourself, like listening to yourself first before you can reach out with that compassion and give yourself the kind of compassion that you actually need. Because there are too many people who fall into I mean, currently there are a lot of people like on social media and stuff, they're talking about like, give yourself self compassion, take a self pampering day or whatever it might be to show yourself love. Um, and so it turns into this block everybody else out and just take care of yourself first kind
Hmm.
of mentality.
Yeah.
And then people end up still feeling empty because it still has been so very self focused that now I don't know how this would fit back into the drama triangle, but like maybe they're the victim and the rescuer. Like they're rescuing themselves
Mm.
and they're not listening to other people and trying to figure out how relationships fit into their overall well-being.
Yeah, with this model, the guy that Steve Karpoff, the guy that created it, he's added a lot of different layers to it so that he's like saying that within each of us we have these roles too. So that kind of fits, with what you're saying, that you're the victim, but you're also trying to rescue yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
interesting. You said Steve Karpoff.
I think it is,
Is it like
yeah.
Karpoff?
Yeah, if you look up Drama Triangle, he's the originator of it. But yeah, with Kristen Neff, I had interviewed her right after she came out with her
Oh, no
self-compassion
kidding.
book, and I've had empathy circles with her and stuff like
Wow.
that. So you could become the guru of self-empathy because there's
Yeah.
nobody is the expert in it like Kristen has become the expert at self-compassion.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have a member of my, not my cohort, but the cohort ahead of me doing the same PhD program as me, that she's pushing back on it, and she has created a construct called whole self love. And I don't fully understand the nuances of her differences, but she's like right there in the middle of pushing back on the self compassion construct. So I would love to get into conversation with her and see where empathy, self-empathy fits into it. Because I think that what her criticism is, and she's met Kristen Neff and like loves her, but she doesn't see it as like really capturing the holistic side of this, where it's like very action oriented, where it's like, I'm going to show myself empathy or sorry, compassion, and I'm going to compare my relationship with myself to my relationships with other people, as opposed to just having like a holistic feeling of self-acceptance and love, like this regardless of comparison with your relationships with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is not really what we're getting at here either. So I think that there is still room for pushback
Yeah.
and creating another construct here. But research always takes time, so that'll be
Yeah, all
years
this
in the
writing
making.
does there. Well, I think you need to go, but there's this another uh,
Yeah,
empathy feeds
let's
a,
go with this one and then wrap it up
okay.
for today.
Empathy feeds the competitive victimhood mentality that is rampant in our society. In an empathetic society, victimhood confers invulnerability, the sin of
Wow,
empathy.
that's a quite a quote.
So, well, it's way over on the right. But anyway, he's saying that the people want to be victims because
Uh-huh.
there's an aspect of power within it. And he's putting it over on the liberals, liberals that he's putting it onto the woke. Let's put it onto the woke culture or what have you, where there's a there's a persecutor, the whites or the colonialists or whoever are the persecutor, and you're the victim, and that you get special attention because you're the victim. So that's why people want to be the victim,
Mhm.
because and and then there's the victim, and the rescuer in this case is going to be the woke activists, right? That
Yeah.
they're going to be wanting to save all the victims, and they're going to be saying, okay, you get to speak first, or there all these other groups are within the whole, the patriarchy, the racism, colonialism, queer studies or what have you. There's it's
Yeah, it's all
very
over.
it's very victim oriented. But then again,
Mhm.
in with this quote here, that in the sense that his criticisms could become, he becomes a persecutor himself, and then the liberals now see themselves as victims being attacked by the right. So anyway, it goes on and on.
Right. And it's never going to end.
Yeah,
Because when we get into that cycle, then you just stay in this triangle for forever.
our
Yeah, I mean
culture is
the
in the
welcome
drama
to
triangle. I mean, our
I
culture
know,
is
and it's
stuck in it.
the entire field of sociology, which is where I got my undergrad, they're obsessed with this. And so it's just interesting to push back against this because I see it from the perspective of everything that I studied in my undergrad was very much focused on this is it, and we have to push back against it, and
You
we
got
have
to
to fix
become a
what's broken.
rescuer, you mean?
Yep,
Uh-huh.
yep, yeah. So I find it very very interesting. Yeah, let's keep going on this. Next week I won't have any conflicts, so
Okay. Yeah.
let me just look and see if I could even go like an hour and a half because I feel like you're really on to something here. Okay, I don't have any reason to go less than an hour next week.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So let's just go as long as we need to next week, within reason, of course.
And if you get a chance, try to come up with one. Just look around, see if there's a quote, from some critic. I mean, you can even just have ask AI for it, and just something that you want to present on one that or any that kind of speak to you too.
Yeah, I love it. Honestly, this is why we need to write a book
Uh-huh.
because
Yeah.
this is the fundamental trap that our society is in, and we need to help people find a way out of it.
Yeah.
Because because the way that we're going about trying to fix society's problems is just perpetuating the problems.
And I
It's
think
just,
the empathy is the exit. I mean, that's the case to make, and I just see it. It's getting the liberals and conservatives to talk to each other, in an empathy circle where they actually listen to each other. I mean, I had that the next I was going to let's see, show. So, um, in this slideshow was show the dialogue between the left and right. I've done it, and it ends up with the people, they're like conservatives and liberals, and they're like hugging each other, or progressives, after doing an empathy circle. So
yeah, it's huge. And it doesn't have to be an isolated event either. I think what you've shown is that it works. And what the next step I think should be is to show that it works broadly.
mhm.
And so, gosh, we've got to get more research in there. Honestly, you have so much information here that needs to get into the academic world. And I really I want to see how we can publish
Mhm.
more on this, more academically and also to the lay audiences. It just has to get out there.
Yeah, it's kind of a full-time job is the thing. Meeting an hour a week is not gonna.
I know, and I just
And
wish I had
I
more
noticed that,
time.
yeah, you got all you got with the PhD and stuff, which is great to, have that. But how do we get more
You're
time?
like, but do you really need to? That's a good point. That's a good point. I put the words in your mouth, but I'm hearing them.
Oh no, I don't. I'm not saying. I think it's great to have it, I mean, for your career and stuff. It gives you clout and.
No, but it's true. I think it's going to be a fine line to walk to be able to do both at the same time, but I think that's why I keep coming back to these meetings because I keep thinking, "Oh, I don't have time for this." But then every time we meet, I just get so fired up about how important this is. So,
Great. Well,
all
I
right,
look
gotta
forward to
go.
next week. Yep. We'll
Yep.
see you then.
I'll see you
Bye.
next Tuesday. See you later.
Bye.